Today I wanted to ask you about, have you heard about Khalil Gibran? Gibran.
Sorry?
Khalil Gibran.
No?
Okay, he's a guy who wrote a book called The Prophet.
Oh, yeah?
He's a Lebanese writer, philosopher who came to the United States, and he's famous for that book called The Prophet.
Yeah.
So in that book, he talks about life, he talks about people, he talks about relationships, he talks about everything. So I was wanting to just ask you, can you sort of talk like that about life, about the mystery of life, apart from telling us this is happening, this?
What
Can you crack the code of life in terms of description? We're not asking for a prescription.
You have to give me an example. I don't know what you mean.
What I mean is, like, now this is happening.
Yeah.
How is it happening? Who's making it happen? Why is it happening?
What does he say in that book?
It's a beautiful book. It's a very small book. I don't have the book in my hand, but I have it. I just opened I'll just read it to you. In the book, the synopsis: the Prophet Al-Mustafa has lived in the foreign city of Orpheus for 12 years and is about to board a ship which will carry him home. He is stopped by a group of people with whom he discusses topics such as life and the human condition. The book is divided into chapters dealing with love, marriage, children, giving, eating and drinking, work, joy and sorrow, houses, clothes, buying and selling, crime and punishment, laws, freedom, reason and passion, pain, self-knowledge, teaching, friendship, talking, time, good and evil, prayer, pleasure, beauty, religion and death. This is what the book talks about.
Wow.
I just wanted you to talk about life and how this thing is happening, this mystery is happening. Because we seem to be blinded to the reality of this, caught in that web of the self.
Yeah. Well, the truth to it is there isn't, everything reflects back that one presence. Everything is presence, everything is eternity, everything. But what happens in the human is when it feels like it's got a life, it then is very destructive to everything. Very destructive.
But how is this happening? This happening.
How is it happening?
Yeah. I remember you telling me even a year ago, that question can't be answered.
Yeah, it can't be answered in words, but that presence is everything. That presence is creating it all, and it's reflected in everything. There's nothing more beautiful. It's everywhere. It's doing the sound of my voice, it's doing Ilangho's it's doing the, you weren't going tut actually, you were going to speak and then I spoke over you. You're like, oh, it was more like that. But all of it does everything. It does that movement, it does that one aliveness, presence, beingness. And it's so sad that human thinks I'm alive and that's my beingness. And it does really terrible things in that dynamic, but it's not the human's fault, it's just the programming that happens in the human. And it sees everything as something to gain from it. It feels like it's lost something, it feels like it's separate, so everything is about gaining, and my happiness is about gaining. So it's always trying to get things. And in a way, naturally, that's what bodies are meant to do, because they're meant to grow. But not like when the separate self's there.
Well, that's not the question today.
Oh no?
The question is, how and why is this program happening? Like, how is it happening? Is it like, for example, the computer code is binary, 0 and 1, 0 and 1. Yeah. That's how the entire internet and the physics is built about. So how is this life happening? Your teaching is, it's happening, this. How is it happening? We shouldn't ask this question?
So you shouldn't answer it. It's just that
No, about a year ago when I asked you in Skype, it was just questions and answers. Your answer was like, the how cannot be explained. But now, since it's a live session, I thought I can expand on that. Because I was a bit scared earlier, like when I started asking, you may suddenly get annoyed. The answers would be stopping, or I never knew what was happening. I was a bit concerned.
it's just it creates out of love for
So
itself.
what is it?
Everywhere, everything. I can't put it into any better words. Presence.
Yeah,
Aliveness.
presence, being, aliveness, God.
Yeah.
But how is it functioning? For example, we know how the internet functions.
Yeah.
We know how the human body, to a certain extent, functions, cells, and so many things. So how is this the greatest thing in the human life? And it's so sad that we don't understand that in terms of.
I think it's fantastic because the human would just then try and manipulate it.
The human is a program.
Yeah.
We're not talking about the human.
Yeah.
We're talking about the human is asking how this program was inbuilt and how was he brought into this world as a robot. Where the mystery code was, that's the source code was kept away from him.
Yeah.
Or her.
Well, it's right here.
Yeah, I know it's here.
That mystery, that thing which you feel is absence, which you can't understand, is right here in it all.
But how is it working?
I don't know. It just is creating.
Yeah. And why is it doing it? We don't know.
No.
Is it that nobody till now has ever known about this? It's always been a mystery. All the mystics, all the saints and the sages, when they come to this question, it was always like, it's a mystery, it's a mystery, it's a mystery. It can only be experienced.
Because she couldn't possibly comprehend what's going on. He just couldn't. It'd be impossible. I'm just turning the volume up in Skype if you see me moving.
No, I'm able to, your video is clear.
No, just for you, so your voice is louder.
Okay. So, are you able to comprehend this life?
No.
We do. No.
No.
No, is it?
I can't work it out how it works.
No, like before Bali and after Bali.
Huh? But
before Bali
I can't.
And after.
But I still don't know how it works. It just is in every instant.
Because before Bali, the veil of the me was probably shrouding it, camouflaging it, or filtering the reality. Now that you are there in the Garden of Eden.
It's not me that's there, but it just is.
Yeah.
I don't know why.
No, me not being there is okay, but can this voice tell me as to what it is?
No.
The mystery is.
No, it just is.
I know. We can't go beyond this. It's happening. How is the it happening? Why is the it happening? It appears to be, I don't know, like a lot of people may think this is not a very correct question, or.
Well, I don't know if they do or not, but the reason that you want to know the answer why.
Because I'm here.
Yeah, it always comes from a fake dynamic. So the dynamic is feeling like you're separate, feeling that you're existing separately, and then that produces fear. And then on top of that, the story goes, how can I work it out? How can I know what this is? Because then that relaxes it. So it's like a building block. And then it actually thinks that question's valid, but where it's really, it doesn't matter. It only matters to something that feels like it's not enough in the first place.
You see, I heard you saying, and I think a lot of teachers keep saying that the sense of not feeling enough.
Yeah.
I've thought about it. I don't know. I don't know whether if it's wrong or what I'm telling you is wrong. the sense of not feeling enough has never crept into me till now. Or am I denying that fact? I don't know. It's always that I have felt myself as a human being, always pleasure driven. But this sense of insufficiency, I was not able to comprehend that. Or maybe that's a subconscious urge which is making me doing all these things. Maybe that's true.
It is, yeah. Because it's pleasure seeking is a natural thing as well. Like the body is, I mean, we're mammals, so we have that urge, that functioning towards pleasure. But what makes the pleasure seeking so intense, and what makes humans do terrible things, is that they also feel an added dynamic of incompletion, of not enough, incompletion, as if there's something missing. Then on top of that, they then look really hard in pleasure. So they compensate on top of that. But most people are only conscious of the very top stories of getting. So it's like, why is he in my way? What's their problem? Like they're only conscious of the very top, and they have no sense that underneath that it comes from a feeling of lack, or they're trying to be something better than what they are.
The lack of what?
The lack comes from when
The lack of what?
Sorry?
Lack of? You're telling me lack of, but lack of what?
The lack comes from the separation.
No, lack of what?
I forgot what we were talking about before when I said that.
I'm clear about this. You were saying, and frequently you've been repeating, it's always the human being is driven towards the pleasure, and it's because of a sense of lack.
Yeah.
But I don't feel, that's what I'm requesting you to explain as to sense of lack of what?
Well, it always changes. But the main thing is it lacks completion. It's separate. It lacks completion. But
I don't feel, yeah.
But in the top stories, it's like, I don't have enough money. I don't have enough lovers. I'm not enlightened. That's what the top stories are. The top, like, it's like building blocks, the top level, the conscious stories. But underneath that, there's always a sense that you lost something. There's something that you lack, that you've got to get. And then it builds on that, and then it's like, I've got to get this. And so then the parents say, you've got to be good. So then it puts loads of effort into being good, and then it tells stories about how it's good. Oh, that person's such an arsehole. I mean, I would never do that. And it lives in these top stories. I would always be fair. I would always be kind. I would always be nice. So it lives on the top level, and that's what the separate person believes it is a nice person. Because its mum said you've got to be good, and it lives in always telling itself how it's nicer than other people, or it could be bad, or whatever stories it's attracted to. It's like building blocks.
Yeah, but that was about 50 years ago. When I was 2 years old, mom told that. But at 52, still the question now is to the master, that is to the you, though you say you're not a master, is that now, after so many years, I don't know. The main reason why I asked this question in the beginning of about this Khalil Gibran and the way he talks about life, and you, if possible, to decode the mystery of life was, now I have found out, and I think many seekers would agree that the only problem now in life for the human being is the self, the me.
Yeah.
So why not shoot it down? Then people may say, no, it has never been done. Yeah, 100 years ago, before the Wright brothers took off on an airplane, people never thought they could fly. But then the flight has come. Then people across the nations, if they could not speak, they thought it was voodoo stuff. But now we are speaking. So the word of impossibility can always be made a possibility, and everybody can become enlightened if that software called the me is destroyed. It's very simple. It's a cruise missile. Just hit it and finish it.
You remind me of a friend of mine. He was a very high intellect, and he'd always be like, yes, let's just kill it. Like,
Yeah.
Get out the missile, blow it up.
See, the second part of the second, the first question was decoding the mystery of life. The second question is how to kill the me. Now you may say it's impossible to kill the me because it's attached to you. But then I have seen, for example, the movie like Braveheart and so many other nationalist people who have given their lives for a cause. human beings have died for lovers, have died for nations, have died for religion.
Yeah.
So they have killed themselves, they cut their throats for that. So why can't whatever this robot speaking ask you
To kill myself for it.
not to kill the me? Is there a technique where the me can be destroyed and that's it? Then everybody becomes enlightened. Then the suffering goes away, there is pain, pleasure, and we are in the Garden of Eden. We are back to why not? Why is it not
Well,
possible?
I've got some very good news. It's happening. Very good news.
It's happening. We can't do that?
You can't do it, but it's happening. So it couldn't be better. It's the best answer there could be.
But the human animal, being pleasure-driven, wants to eradicate that suffering.
Oh yeah,
What
it wants to have a good go at it. It wants to.
Yeah. Why not? Why not? Why is it not possible now?
Because
It's something. A lot of times, there's a lot of confusion about so many teachers, gurus, everybody saying the illusion, the maya of the false eye. But in this present moment, as we are speaking, that false eye is always linked to this master computer. Whatever is happening now, though it's coming and claiming, but it is always attached to this life. It's like these movies where, in the last scene, the hero comes and some negative thing is attached and he comes and he cuts it off and that thing goes like the Alien movie, if you've seen the Alien movie. No, from the spaceship, they find the movie, I forgot the heroine's name. They just cut it off and it goes away. So is it possible because this is some object, an energy bundle in the human being, doing all this rubbish in the last maybe 1 lakh years or 50,000 years after language was formed? Now just roll it back, to the factory.
Well, it's fantastic, Ilangho, because it's happening. It's happening. You can't see your own destruction, but it's happening.
I know, but why can't I accelerate it like a catalyst? They say when plants are growing, then you add fertilizers, they grow faster.
Well, because you
It's
can't.
desperate.
But it is happening, and it's happening at the only speed it can. I know you imagine this acceleration or non-acceleration. It's happening.
Mm. And lots of times, even now in the last 20 to 30 years, people who have met masters like Ramana Maharshi or Papaji, they go and meet and boom, it's gone.
Yeah.
It appears to be a cause-effect relationship. Even present non-duality speakers speak like that.
Yeah.
Wayne Lickerman. So many, I think, a lot of people who speak about the teacher and something happened and it was a Wi-Fi hit. Yeah. Wi-Fi app gone and it's gone. The self is annihilated.
Well, you don't even need to concern yourself with that, Ilangho, because it's happening.
Yeah, it's happening, but even in the book and your teaching is that as long as the self exists, the suffering will continue. And the self will self-destruct and it will die one day. Till that time, we have to bear the suffering of the self.
You
That's
have
the
to
message.
what?
Bear, B-A-R, bear the suffering of the self. The self is so stupid. Isn't it?
Well, I mean, it
It's
is as it
important.
is.
It cannot move a hair. The self cannot move a small hair from anywhere, cannot move an atom in a human's life, but it claims and creates all the suffering. So why not kill it
Yeah.
with a crucifix? Is it possible?
Well,
Maybe you will be the first person in the history of humankind, like when Buddha came, created this revolution in the human race, where the entire human race was saved.
well, it's a happening. Well, the way it happens or how it happens is kind of irrelevant. It's a happening, and there's nothing that can go wrong. But again, I would suggest that all of this comes from a feeling of wanting to get out of yourself.
Yeah, naturally.
That sensation of wanting to get out of yourself. But there is that's never going to work. It's never going to work. Anywhere you look, it's never going to work. what happens seemingly in a lot of waking up processes is the energy stops trying to run away from its hell, which is separation. Because there is this sensation that comes up of lack, and then it tries to run away in this ethereal land by saying, I'm better than this person. This person is so stupid, I'm so much better at doing this job. So it tries to run away in this very high land where the base feeling is just a sensation of lack, a sensation of separation, which isn't true. Most people spend their whole life in this very narrow world of me, and feeling and trying to feel pleasure and trying to feel whole by feeling better than other people, by feeling superior than other people, and it never ever works. Never. The feeling of all humans, and this is where we destroy the planet. Like, we are absolutely destroying the planet now as a human race in this fight to compete with our fellow human beings. That's all it is. The way our society works is based on competition. And we all want to have the better house, the bigger house, the more money. It's all based on that competition of feeling better and superior, because the initial feeling is lack. Yes, we are meant to compete as animals to survive, but the reason it's gone so insane in humanity is because of this extra thing of, yes, I do exist, I am separate, and I really, really do need to be better than other people. And all of it comes from a feeling of lack, and there's nothing to run away from. None of your stories about completion in anything will ever work. And so what begins to happen is that person stops running, and then the lack feeling is felt, but there's nobody that runs away from it anymore. It just presents itself, and there's nothing that runs away from it, so it just dissolves in on it by itself because it was an illusion. But the person that's running in this high land is perpetuating that feeling of lack. It's constantly validating that you are not enough, that you are separate, and that you're not enough. So it just keeps running in this story up here, and it keeps telling itself all these fake stories, and none of it's true. And the ultimate illusion is that there is separate people, but you can't undo yourself. It will get undone, because even if you try and undo yourself, it'll be about competing with others. Your undoing will be about comparing yourself in time, and actually it'll be comparing yourself to yourself. You'll be like, okay, so what I've got to do is I've got to meditate, or what I've got to do is I've got to stand on one leg, or what I've got to do is a yoga position, and you're comparing yourself to the past. It's the same thing. It's the same competition that's happening.
Can I just respond?
Yeah.
But I am not talking about a sense of lack. You are talking. As you said, it may be on the top story and the bottom things, but the speaker is not feeling that sense of lack. Maybe occasionally, but the root thing now is, it's not the sense of lack. It's not the sense that I want to compare myself with anybody and inflate my ego and feel better. No, that's not the question. The question is, this travel in La La Land on the last quarter century with spiritual teachings ultimately has culminated in this person called Ilangho hearing the teachings of Lisa Cairns and finding out that the root crux of life is, it's an automatic process happening in this universe by a mysterious force, and everything happens by itself. But if you can just step down from that position of this is happening, and the suffering in the this is happening is because of the me. It comes down to a very small formula like E is equal to MC squared. This is happening, number one. Number two, the suffering in the this is happening is because of the me. So the number three question is, kill the me. It's very simple. You are teaching us.
No, you're in the back. You're in the back to front story. You're in the.
What you're saying is, let's destroy the story.
Well, but you're in the high story, the story up there that's going around in story, and then you're saying, okay, so the answer is to destroy the me. But that's not the answer. In that world, it's a constant circle, like a hamster going around in the ball. And what it's trying to run from is any discomfort.
That's natural to it.
Well, in a way, because the mammal is set up, this is why it's so confusing, the mammal is set up to seek for pleasure. But the separate self really feels like it's separate, and then this pleasure game becomes too important, and it believes it will complete itself in pleasure. You won't complete yourself in pleasure. It is here, the completion. it doesn't mean that this mammal will stop running towards pleasure. That's the way it's designed, like the fish, or functions like the fish. But in that story of killing yourself is in the top story. You can't do anything in that world. It's in a fake world.
Agreed. So what's the bottom line on the top story?
The bottom line is there always a feeling that you're not enough. And I know that you say that you don't feel that, and it's mostly diminished a lot, but there's always a sensation that you've been kicked out of Eden in every instant. And that's what's creating the problem, and you're never going to find a solution in the thought world. But the person really doesn't want to feel that sensation.
Okay. Now the next question is, as I am talking to you, this is it. That's your teaching. This is it. It's happening.
Yeah.
It's happening, correct?
Yeah.
Now in this happening, suffering happens because of the me claiming ownership of this is happening. So this thing which is talking to you understands that this illusory me is creating the suffering in that this is happening.
Yeah.
So this voice is asking the other voice how to kill the me. This is happening now. In the this is happening. Just 1 second passed away and something is coming and creating that suffering. Oh, for example, this conversation is going to end. I'm just telling you. And something is going to happen. That the me is keeping on coming. The me is a real fact. It's an energy. We are actually saying that the me is not true. It's illusory. It is an energy which is claiming the entire happening of the entire life of the human being. Yeah. So it's something there. It's substantial.
Feels it,
The illusory me is substantially linked with this present moment as Ilangho and Lisa are talking, and it's sucking that energy and claiming, I'm doing it like a clown in the circus, where the real thing is done by something called God. And the God creates this clown and creates all this problem.
Yeah.
So this voice is asking you, is there a way in where this energy can be disconnected?
It's happening. It's happening, Ilangho. You can't escape it. When the Buddha came out from the Bodhi tree, they said, what happened? Nothing happened.
Everybody says that once they cross that veil, that's the universal statement. Yeah. All the teachers say that.
Well, a lot of them, yes. Some of them.
Yeah, but then you also have said, everything contributed to your Bali.
Huh?
Everything contributed to 2010
everything.
In Bali.
The whole.
It was not the teacher, the whole. So we can't say nothing happened, everything happened.
Oh, well, they're one and the same thing, really.
And another question attached to this is, sometimes they say, in a certain scientific research happening, it takes about 50 years to create this sort of thing where, you can go to the next star or something.
Yeah.
Because the technology is not developed much. It's a question of time. It's a question of time when the technology will be developed where there can be a spacecraft going to the star Betelgeuse or something like that. So, is this that we have now come to spiritual teaching where Lisa Cairns' teaching is this is happening, the only villain is the me. This is happening, automatically the villain is the me. If the villain can be removed away from the happening, then everybody is in the Garden of Eden. And the teaching has come down to this. It's so near. The Garden of Eden is just across the compound. It's like turning the corner.
The Garden of Eden is in the lack.
It's here. It's in the lack.
Langa's like, oh. But Ilangho, we have to wrap this conversation up now because it's 8 o'clock. So,
sure.
And I'm sorry, Loren didn't get spoken to. But
so there is a possibility as we wind off for today that there is a possibility as Lisa Cairns' teaching has come down to this is happening. Probably she can also tell us how this is happening in the God.
To undoing, and I can assure you. Ilangho, I know that this isn't very juicy for you to think about, but I assure you it is happening. It is happening. There is no way out of this.
No, I'm not asking a way out of this. It is happening is agreed.
No, but I mean it's happening, the deconstruction of that illusion.
Is it happening for all human beings?
Yes.
Then why is it 99.99% are wanting to nuke each other?
A new what?
Nuclear bombs. That's how the
Well,
world is going.
yeah,
Nuking.
yeah. I know.
If this is
I
happening,
seriously think in our lifetimes that our society is gonna collapse. Um, it is happening, but in the illusory story, some faster than others.
but in the end, this is happening. Is there a way where the me can be killed?
Not a way that you could work out, Ilangho, and manipulate. If there was, I mean, it would be a disaster.
Yeah, but the point is, like, you and I are God, and we are the
Yeah,
infinite,
but
omniscient,
not as a thought or an action. Thought and actions arise in God as God, so you can't work it out and manipulate it. It just can't be done. But it is happening, and we're not talking about ballet dancing here.
yeah.
I'm
Meaning?
not talking about ballet becoming a dancer.
Yeah.
We're talking about non-duality. It's happening. Life is presenting it.
The Creator is speaking with each other. He used to say, no, God is speaking. So the God knows everything.
No. Well, yes, but not like we think. We think of that as
What?
in our intellect and in our knowledge of opposites. It's way more complicated than that, like, or way more creative than that. That's the limit. That's such a tiny way of thinking. But it is happening, the deconstruction of the self. This isn't learning about sewing or knitting or dancing. It's being presented non-duality. It's happening in the whole of humanity because there's nowhere they can go but home. The full self gets created and then it gets destroyed. But this is presenting it while the body is still alive. The Ilangho is the collapse of Ilangho is happening.
It's happening.
It's happening.
Then who's now? One
But
second.
you're not doing it and I'm not doing it. It's
No,
happening.
if the collapse of Ilangho is happening, then who's talking now? It's not Ilangho talking, is it?
No. It
Who's
just
talking?
feels like that. That's God speaking. That's God looking.
Then if God is looking, why is God forgotten the way to kill the me? Then the definition of God is gone. This God is a dumb God speaking to you.
Oh, no, because you're looking at God in subject object. God is there in the presence. Look how amazingly divine it is.
If
wow.
My nail is there, yeah, I understand. If my nail is there and I want to clip the nail, I take a nail cutter and clip it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Similarly, if I want to remove a part of me which is giving me cancer, I go to the doctor and remove it. And this me is killing me every moment of my life. And that's an energy.
Yeah.
It's like in a computer, we have a software, we have a recycle bin, we have a control panel, we have so many things, and we can remove some part of it. Is there a possibility that we can do it, get a teaching?
But it is happening, Ilangho.
There's no question of the happening. It's happening.
No, but I mean, like, you want to work out like clipping your nail, but you can't think of it like that. This is the silent killer. If you knew, it wouldn't be happening.
No. Who's the silent killer?
How could you? No. This. How could you?
Who's the silent killer?
This. Who can? This.
Life is the killer.
Yes. What is? But how could you know about your own destruction? If you knew about your own destruction, you'd try to manipulate it and not be destroyed.
Human beings are killing themselves for other things. You kill for the person you love. You kill for your country.
Yeah.
I mean, the fighter pilots on every jet aircraft is ready to die for his country on an F-16. Am I right?
Yeah, but the collapse of you is happening because if you knew the way, Ilangho, like clipping your nails, you would get in the way of it. You can't do your own destruction, but life is doing it. Just like life is producing the sunlight, like life is producing the wind.
If life is producing it, then, and if I can't destroy myself, then who's this energy talking to you?
Presence.
This is not Ilangho talking to you.
No, it never has been. It was never even Ilangho clipping the nail, but the thought needed to come up, clip the nail. The thought doesn't need to come up, destroy myself. It's happening. The thought doesn't need to come up, breathe. The thought doesn't need to come up, heartbeat.
So now the only problem is the thought coming up and creating this illusion. If the thought has got away, then
it's an energy, not just a thought. It's like an energy as well. But it's being destroyed. Just like the heart beats and the lungs breathe, and the body steps away from the fire. But the person always thinks that I have to be conscious of it. But consciousness is a tiny part of functioning. It's a tiny part. The illusion of self is being destroyed.
If a small sand enters the eye, we take water and we remove it.
Yes, we need some conscious thinking about that. But we don't need the conscious thinking about the destruction of the illusion. You don't need to know how it works, because the conscious thinking about it is tiny compared to the actual functioning of this. It's only needed for things like clipping the nail and sand in the eye and, oh, I've got a doctor's appointment later, or I've got to. It's only needed for a tiny part of functioning. It's so complicated, all of this, and how it's happening. It's way beyond our comprehension. And the deconstruction of self is happening, and it's got nothing to do with you. The you is a very, very small part of what's happening.
No, who's the you and who's the self then?
Presence.
Presence, God.
Yeah. But this is enough now. It's over 2 hours. Oh, well, thank you, Ilangho. I know you feel like, oh, that's very sweet. Thank you.
Tell me.
I know you feel like there must be some intellectual way, but when I say it's happening, this is a celebration. Like it really is happening. But,
and there's no question on that.
Yeah. Okay, thanks, Ilangho.
Thank you so much.
Bye.
Bye.